to Forti Friday. We'll just give it a couple more minutes before we get started. Wait for a couple of people to join the call. Okay, guys, we're going to get started now because it's there's quite a lot to cover over the next sort of 40 minutes. Hopefully, we're going to have time to show you both FortiManager and FortiAnalyser. I'm going to start off with FortiManager. I'll give you a good overview of the GUI of the FortiManager. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flick the box into Workspace Mode. So Workspace Mode is for those that want to track changes and link them maybe to, core logging systems and so on and so forth. Okay, so as you can see, I've just logged into the box here, and we have an option where it selects an ADOM. So an ADOM is an administered domain. So an ADOM is the equivalent of either a physical FortiGate appliance or a FortiGate VDOM. So, for example, if you have 10 physical FortiGate appliances, that would class as 10 physical ADOMs on your FortiManager device. There again, if you had a single FortiGate device with 5 virtual domains on there, then that would again equate to 5 ADOM licenses. So when we talk about ADOMs, ADOMs are also they are allocated to different Fortinet appliances. So if you have a FortiGate and a FortiMail, you can't append both of those devices into a single ADOM. They have to be in a separate ADOM due to the database structures and so on and so forth. So for today's demo, we're going to look at our root ADOM that resides on our FortiGate 200D. Essentially, anything that you can do on the FortiGate itself, you can do via the FortiManager. So here we have our system settings page. As you can see, it's got, if you've not seen FortiManager before, it's got a very similar look and feel to what you get if you log into a FortiGate running the same version of code. On the code versions, it's generally best practice to run maybe 1 release or possibly 2 releases lower than your current FortiGate device. So for example, at the moment, our FortiGate, we're running 5.4.4, and we're running the latest version of code available at the moment on the FortiManager, which is 5.4.2. As far as I know from checking, there is no 5.6 version of FortiManager out at the moment. So from the main splash screen here, we can see how many ADOMs we've got allocated or we're using. So this is a base license. So as a VM base, we get 10 ADOMs allocated to that license. If you downloaded the FortiManager as just an eval, then again you automatically get the 10 ADOM license. If you want to increase that, you can do that on a stacking level, so you can have 10, you can have 25, you can have 50, and so on and so forth, depending on the size and environment that you're looking to manage via your FortiManager. We've got general stuff here regarding serial number, what build we're on, so on and so forth, and backups of the database, etc., etc. A couple of points of notes here. If you want to use the ADOM feature, you need to switch it on. It's not enabled by default. And also the FortiManager, if you didn't know already, it comes with a full-featured FortiAnalyser, so you get all the reporting as you would in a FortiAnalyser unit. The limitation is basically on the amount of storage that you can actually allocate to the FortiAnalyser built into the FortiManager. I think the limitation is about 50 terabytes at the moment. And then also we can connect to the console of the FortiManager. You need to use the console for enabling Workspace Mode, which I'll show you later on during the demo. So as you can see here, when I mentioned when we first logged into the box, we've got our ADOMs. So we can see here that we've got multiple ADOMs that are pre-configured. So all these devices here are pre-configured by the unit, and then we've created our own. So to create a new ADOM, very straightforward. We create an ADOM, we give it a name, we say what type of appliance we want. So yeah, we'll have it as a FortiGate, and then you can decide which version of code you're using. So you might be in an environment where you've got versions of code varying from 5.4 to 5.0. So if you've got a number of FortiGates running 5.2, then all those 5.2 FortiGates need to reside in the FortiGate 5.2 ADOM. Just for your information, FortiManager 5.4 does not support older versions of code than 5.0, so you can't use 5.0, 4.0, 4.3, so on and so forth. So if we had a device available to us, we could then add the device into this ADOM, and the ADOM would be created. However, you could pre-configure the ADOM, so if you've not got a device to allocate the ADOM at that present time, you can create the ADOM and add the device at a later date. A couple of points of note here that are quite important. Central management of VPN. If you enable this function and you have a FortiGate with VPNs configured on it, so site to site or client to site, that VPN configuration, when you import the device, will be removed from the FortiGate and you will have to recreate it. My advice would be not to use the central management feature unless you've got multiple VPNs and you want to do a mesh style VPN configuration. So as you can see, our ADOM is created and we can now allocate FortiGates to the ADOM if we wanted to. Network configuration, so this is just basically how we attach to our management network and how we can access the box, so HTTP, HTTPS, SSH, so on and so forth. Again, very, very similar to a FortiGate. If you're using the virtual machine option of a FortiManager, then you need to do this via the CLI. So when you fire up your virtual machine environment and you install the FortiManager, the first thing you'll have to do is apply an IP address for management. This can be on any port. There's 4 ports allocated on the FortiManager, but generally use port 1, and it's a simpler case of setting the IP, setting a default route to your FortiGate or your management IP gateway address, and then another option that you need to set is you need to set which port that route is accessed via. So it's a simple command. It's basically set device port 1. The FortiManager you can also have as a standalone, or you can have it as an active master solution. So if you're running an MSSP and you've got multiple FortiGates, then generally you're going to have a couple of FortiManager devices allocated in your network. So if one fails, the secondary takes over, and so on and so forth. For the administration side of the FortiManager, as you can see, this is very, very similar to what you've done on a FortiGate. So whereas on a FortiGate, if we had multiple ADOMs, we would multiple VDOMs, we'd assign certain admin users to specific VDOMs, and then we can do the same on a FortiManager. So we can say, right, okay, the admin user can access all ADOMs, or we can select specific ADOMs if you've got multiple ADOMs configured within the unit. And then we can also set access profiles. So, for example, you might have a customer and they have their own ADOM allocated to them, and they might access the FortiManager so they can make their own changes to firewall rules, policies, profiles for security, and so on and so forth. And within that profile, they might want to say, right, okay, we need our own users, but we want them to have limited access to certain features of the FortiManager. If that's the case, then we can do that by creating a separate profile, much as the same as if you would do if you were using it on FortiGate. We can also offload authentication to a remote authentication server. So we've got our FortiManager device pointing at a radius server where our accounts sit, rather than holding them all locally on the FortiManager box itself. And then the admin settings, again, this is the same as what you do on a FortiManager. So if you want it on FortiGate, sorry, you can change the admin port. So these are just the standard ports that are pre-configured with the unit. And it also has a built-in certificate server, as you can see here. The fetcher management, this is basically how the FortiManager downloads updates, so antivirus updates and so on and so forth to the device. So you can select specific host IP addresses if you wanted to, but by default it does this automatically. So any FortiGuard updates that come down to the FortiManager are done automatically. A point of note there is that if you do import a FortiGate into a FortiManager, then the FortiManager automatically takes control of updating IP, IPS, AV, signature updates to your unit. You have to physically make a change on the FortiManager to say if you want the FortiGate to go directly out to the FortiGuard network. We can then see the event log, so we can see what's happening on the box. We can see who's logged in, what configuration changes have been made. These are purely informational. It's not something you can click on and revert the changes, so on and so forth. And then we can configure things like SNMP, so we can send traps from the FortiManager. The mail server option here, this is quite important. If you're using things like the FortiAnalyser or Workspace Mode, and you want to either send reports out to specific people, or you want to send approval messages out to admin users that are approving changes for Workspace Mode, then you need to create the mail server, because it will ask for these details when you're configuring the Workspace Mode or the FortiAnalyser configuration. So as you can see here, we have our pointed at our FortiMail device within our demo environment. You can also point the device at a syslog server. This is more aligned to if you're using the device as a FortiAnalyser as well. So, for example, if you're sort of getting to a stage of a day where you're on the limit of logging the number of logs on a per daily basis, then you might want to set the syslog server details and say, right, okay, this is our syslog server, and when we hit X amount of logs per day, we want to off those logs rather than overwrite them on the FortiAnalyser part of the FortiManager, because then you risk losing the information that you may need to call back on it at some point in the future. And then we have our meta field. So within our security policy, for example, we can specifically allocate meta fields. So we've got one here which is called Change ID. So this is an addition that we've made, and we can say, right, okay, when someone tries to create a firewall policy, if they haven't added a change ID number, then basically we won't let them apply the policy to the actual firewall. So it's a good way of integrating the FortiManager with a core login system, and then you can track the changes through those systems. So the device manager, this is where we import new devices into our into our FortiManager. You can do this two ways. Basically, you can add a device by using the IP address and username and do a discover, or you can say to the FortiGate, we're using FortiManager, this is our FortiManager IP address, and there will be an option underneath here that says unregistered devices, similar to what you get if you're trying to register a device with a FortiAnalyser. Once you've added a device, it comes into the device management here. At that point, it doesn't automatically install the policy. So if we want to import the policy from the FortiGate, then we have to select this option here. So we've got import policy, which is a pull, so it pulls from the FortiGate, and then we've got the reinstall policy. Reinstall policy means we've made a change to the FortiGate via the FortiManager, and we want to push that change to the FortiGate. So if we just open up our root VDOM here, as you can see across the top, we've got various options for making system changes and so on and so forth to the FortiGate. We can have routing statements, we can change VPNs, we can view our VPNs. So for example, we've got a number of phase 1 connections here, and so on and so forth. By default, 90% of this is switched off, or if it's not switched off, it's hidden from your view. So what you need to do is click on the display options, and as you can see here, we've got the option to select all of the relevant functionality that we can view within the top tab of the FortiManager. So if you decide that you want to do a little bit of a test with FortiManager and download the VM image and you install it and you think, oh, hang on a minute, where's all the functionality? Well, it's basically here, it's just not been enabled within the GUI itself. So as you can see here, we've got multiple, we've got VPN connections, we can look at various security profiles. The main bulk of the security profiles is actually listed within the policy and objects, which we'll go on to in a short time. We can also see here our firmware options. So we can see that our FortiGate 200D here, there's an upgrade available. If we wanted to, we could upgrade from the FortiManager to the FortiGate version 5.6. I don't think we'll do that at the minute because obviously we're doing a demo and it might take a few minutes for that upgrade process to complete. And then we've got our licensing. So this basically tells us our licensing situation on the FortiGate, and as you can see, our UTM license is due to expire. So this is good from an administration point of view. You know, if you've got hundreds of FortiGates, then you can see through one pane of glass which of your FortiGates are borderline licensed and expiring, and so on and so forth. And then we've got our provisioning template. So the provisioning template basically lets us set specific parameters within the FortiGate. So these are system parameters. So if you have multiple FortiGates out there, and you said yes, we want them all to use the same DNS server, we want to put them all to this same SNMP server, and so on and so forth, then you can just create the template once and then push it out to the FortiGate when it comes online. So the policy and objects of the FortiManager is the sort of business end of the device. So these are our policies that we've got configured within our FortiGate unit. Now, as you probably know, that if you make a change on a FortiGate, so you change a policy or you create an object, so on and so forth, then as soon as you click OK, that policy is enabled, and potentially you could break something if the policy is not being configured correctly. FortiManager is slightly different. It will allow us to create a new policy within here. So if we just create new, and we'll call it FortiFriday, and then we can select our incoming interface. So we'll say OK, it's going to be our port 1. We can drag and drop into here, which is which is quite nice. And then we can go to our WAN interface, so on and so forth. And then if we wanted to, we can obviously populate all these other sections as if you would if you were creating a security policy on your FortiGate. And we then say, okay, what we want to do, by default, the action is deny. We want to accept it. Once we select, we get the accept. We get the option to do the NAT, and then we also get the option to add our various security profiles. So we'll just put, let's have a look, our AV profile, so we'll send it to the sandbox, and that'll do us for this test. So we OK that. Now, although we've created the policy, it's still sitting on the FortiManager. It's not being pushed to our FortiGate. So if we look at installation targets here, we can say, right, okay, these are this is our firewall here with our root VDOM. If we had multiple firewalls on here and we wanted to append a change to multiple firewalls, then we could select them and we could append that change. So as you can see here, we've got our root VDOM, and it says we've got like a little half moon shape here. It basically means that there's been a modification to the policy. So all we need to do here is we click on there, and we, it's because I've not got Workspace Mode enabled, I think. Install here. So if we go Install Wizard, basically there's two options. We can do the Install Wizard or Reinstall Policy. The Install Wizard, we can select for it to make a revision change. So this is the same as creating a revision on the firewall. So it copies the configuration and the code, and if we make a mistake, we can revert that at a later date, or we can view the change that we made. You can also say, right, okay, we don't really want to push the change during the working hours. We want to push it at a specific time of the day. If we want to do that, we can do it. We can set the time and date here. So we don't want to do that for now. We'll just do a standard policy push. So if we go to do Reinstall Policy, and then we get the option to preview. When you first import a FortiGate and then you import the policy and then you make a change on the FortiManager, I would always suggest that you do a preview of the policy, of the first policy, before you push it, because the FortiManager on the first policy push will make changes to your firewall. It will remove instances of objects that are not used. So it's just a case of sanity checking what it's going to do prior to pushing those changes to the firewall. For example, you might get an anomaly where it deletes something that's currently in use, and then it has a knock-on effect to the web browsing of your users. It might have a knock-on effect to how you have access the unit for administration purposes and so on and so forth. So if we just preview the change here, and then as you can see, we can see the VDOM that we're configuring, we can see the firewall policy, we can see the name that we gave it, Forti Friday, we can see source, destination, so on and so forth. We're happy with that, so we just need to cancel that off and select next, and then that will push the policy to the firewall. And that's that, it's done. So that policy will now be in the firewall. It should be down at the bottom of the list. We'll just check. And there it is, Forti Friday. So it's appended the firewall policy rule to the bottom of the list. So also, you might notice in here that there's nothing that mentions things like security profiles and objects. So the objects and security profiles are held within the objects configurations here. So we can have obviously profiles for our various UTM features that we've got enabled on our FortiGates. and so on and so forth. Again, it's the same sort of configuration, so we create an object or a new security profile. It doesn't append that change directly to the FortiGate. Again, we have to push those changes to the FortiGate unit via the reinstall of the policy package or the scheduled install of the policy package. Just another quick note on policy packages here. You could create policy packages without having a firewall installed. So you can say, right, okay, we've got a firewall, it's going out to site, and we've got the standard set of policies that we want to apply to that firewall. Well, we can do it. Basically, all we need to do is create a new policy package, or we can even clone a current policy package, and it can just sit within the ADOM or a new ADOM waiting for that connection to come up from the new FortiGate device that might be out on site somewhere. I'll just gloss over a couple of options here. So AP Manager, yeah, if you're running 40 APs on your network, then yes, you can manage them centrally rather than logging on to the FortiGate itself and manage them via the FortiGate. So any access points that you import that are associated with a particular FortiGate will be appended in here. So if we have multiple FortiGates in the left-hand column here, we could select each one, and then it would show us the 40 APs associated to that particular FortiGate. And then we have the VPN Central Manager. I mentioned that earlier. If you're not looking at doing mesh VPNs, then the best thing to do is just manage the VPNs manually via the FortiManager device access page rather than the central management. I can't reiterate enough that if you have VPNs configured and you select the VPN Central Management, it will remove all of your VPN configurations. And then we have the access to FortiGuard. So FortiGuard is obviously where we pull all updates from, so whether it be signatures or firmware releases and so on and so forth. So as you can see here, it's picked up our FortiGate 200D. We've got the latest versions of, it's got our expiry dates for our UTM functionality, etc. And then we can also look at firmware images. If you wanted to, you can import images to the FortiManager. So you could import, I don't know, 5.4.1 or 5.2 or 5.0, so on and so forth, for particular appliances that you've had in your network, and you could push those changes down to them. If we had multiple FortiGates within here, so we might have a 100D, we might have a 1500D, so on and so forth, the FortiManager will automatically download the latest version of code for that particular device. So it might be a device that has PoE, it might be a device that has built-in Forti Wi-Fi. It will download the right version of code for you, and you can then say, right, okay, I want to upload that code to the FortiGate. I just want to jump onto the workspace mode now, because it might be applicable to some of you in some of the environments that you work in. So to configure workspace mode, basically it's a command line thing. So we basically config config system global workspace mode workflow. So it will temporarily log me out of the session. So if I log back in, and log into here, and then system settings, and then as you can see here, we've got a new little tab, so it's called Workflow Approval. So this is basically saying who can approve changes that are made to the firewall. So if we click on the Workflow Approval here, it's kept my settings from when I was testing it out the other day. So essentially, I can make changes to the root VDOM, because that's the only VDOM we've got at the moment, and the approval group is Chris, so that's my username, and then we have a send email notification to my email address. And from what we configured, or what we saw earlier on the mail server options here, we've got our mail server in here, so it knows which SNMP service to hit to be able to send the email out to the particular user. So the main difference here on workflow mode is that if you want to make a change, you need to first of all lock the ADOM. So essentially, it prevents anybody else changing anything on that ADOM at the same time, i.e. possibly overwriting changes that you might be making yourself. So we go to Policy and Objects, and we want to make a change. So what do? First and foremost, we lock the ADOM and we create a session. So we create a session, and the session name is Forti Friday, and then OK. So now we can make a change to the firewall. So if we say, right, OK, what we want to do is we want to delete the firewall rule that we put in before. So we select delete, and then we select delete here, and then we select OK. And then it should give us an option to save. So we select save. So our changes have been saved. Now, once it's been saved, we need to submit that change. So we log back into the session option here. We click submit. Then we select OK. And then because I'm logged in as admin, the admin hasn't got the rights to be able to approve the change that we're asking to be made. So we need to log out of admin and log back in as me. So so we log in as me, and then we go to Policy and Objects, and now again we have to lock the ADOM. So we lock the ADOM, and it automatically brings up any changes that are looking to be approved. So this is our change. This is the admin. This is the user that's made the change. We can see the time and so on and so forth. We can view the differences if we want to, and then all we need to do is make sure that it's selected and then select approve. We select approve, and if we go to installation targets again, and we select the option there and there, we can then do reinstall policy. So we look at the preview to see what it's doing again. Hopefully it should say delete policy. And there we go. So delete 35, so that was our policy ID. Cancel that. Just click next. So the use of Workspace Mode could be ideal if you've got multiple end users that are managing their own sort of ADOM within the FortiManager. You could say, right, okay, yeah, we'll let you make changes, but to safeguard ourselves and you, what we will do is you need to get the change approved by, a super admin administrator that could be essentially one of you guys. So it's purely for tracking changes and safeguarding some end users probably from themselves, to be honest with you. So that's a real sort of whistle stop tour of the FortiManager to give you a bit of an overview of some of the main features of it and what it can do. Just as a side note, if you're looking at managing a FortiManager, a FortiGate via FortiManager, you need to make sure that on the interface that the manager is connecting to on your FortiGate has the FMG access option enabled. So under the interface, I'll just show you here. So we go to change D. Oh, there's no box. So these messages are generated by the FortiGate basically because it's saying that yes, the FortiGate is managed by the FortiManager, do you want to still make changes? Yes, you can make changes to the FortiGate directly. If you do the system changes, then so things like DNS settings or something like that, then those will automatically be updated on the FortiManager, and the FortiManager will tell you, it will say auto updated. If you make policy changes direct on the FortiGate, then essentially what will happen is the config will become out of sync with the FortiManager, and you'll have to re-import the policy to the FortiManager. So if we've got a FortiManager and we're managing the FortiGate, then we need to enable the FMG access option just here. Okay, so I'm going to, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to shout out now just before I jump onto the FortiAnalyser for the next sort of 10 minutes or so. Okay, so the FortiManager, it's got, sorry, the FortiAnalyser has got virtually an identical look as the FortiManager, but again, this is just purely for logging. So as you can see, the GUI front end is the same. Most of the options that we talked about on the FortiManager, with the exception of workflow approval, are the same as on the FortiManager. Again, we've got that option of ADOMs. So on the ADOM option here, if you have a FortiGate with multiple virtual domains, and each of those virtual domains is allocated to a separate customer, and that customer has access, or you're going to give that customer access to the FortiAnalyser for them to be able to run off their own reports, etc., etc., you need to enable advanced ADOM mode. So this basically means you can have, you might have a FortiGate with multiple VDOMs, and you might want to split those VDOMs across multiple different ADOMs for specific end users. So that option is only available if you select the advanced feature here. So device manager, again, this is very straightforward. So if you've got a FortiGate and you type in the IP address of the FortiAnalyser and you select test, it will fail. But what it will do, it will send the packets of information to the analyzer, and it will basically say that you have got one unregistered device. So all we need to do is add the device in, and then it imports itself into the FortiAnalyser. So very, very straightforward. So within the FortiAnalyser, it comes built with basically all the log stuff that you can do on the FortiGate, or you can see on FortiGate, but it also comes with the reports. So if we just log on to look at FortiView here, we can see pretty much what we can see on our FortiGate. This option here, this is an indicator of compromise. This is a separate license that you have to buy with the FortiAnalyser. So it will basically tell you bits of kit that could be suspicious, and it will categorize those in low, medium, and high suspicion essentially. This is okay. So threat name CNC. Okay, fair enough. So we can track things like this and see what it's doing. This is probably false positive, to be honest with you. We'll have a look at that later on. And then we can look at our traffic, so we can look at sources. So again, obviously, if you're used to using the FortiAnalyser, it will pull things like device names. It will pull things like usernames if you've got it configured within Active Directory. So the source here would say the IP address and then user, etc., etc. And we can see our top destinations. And as we can with the FortiGate, we can drill down to the session level of that log message within the traffic log. We also have LogView. LogView, I really like this feature, especially for You can create custom charts, so you can use like the chart builder option. So for example, we've got loads of logs coming through here from our FortiGate, and we might have a customer says to us, right, okay, we want a chart on, and we want to look at the user and where they've been and so on and so forth. So if we go to the tools options here, we can go to chart builder, and it will let us select specific fields from the top here into our chart builder. So essentially, it's creating the SQL for you. So it makes it really easy if you're not that comfortable using SQL queries. This is limited to the number of fields that you can actually append. So yes, it looks like it's 5 fields here. But you can say, right, okay, well, we're not really that bothered about the device ID. We want to use date and time as well. And then we can preview, so we can test that it works. So it should come up with some information here once it's loaded. So yeah, so it gives us the date and time, destination IP, and so on and so forth. If we added extra columns in here, which you can do, so we might have the URL or domain or category and so on and so forth. Once we've added those into the option sat behind this window that's open at the moment, they will appear in here. So we can then query on that level. You can also look at event logs, so we can look at system events, routing events, VPN, so VPN up, down, so on and so forth. We can look at security events, so for example, if we've done definition updates and so on and so forth, or it could be that a virus has been hit by FortiGate, so obviously it will report on that and so on and so forth. And then we can look at things like web filter, what categories we're hitting, and so on and so forth. So category description here, information. This is fully populated here, basically because we have all of our web filter monitoring set in monitoring mode. So we're logging everything just so we can get some information through for doing demos and so on and so forth. So the reports within the FortiAnalyser, these are all pre-configured for you. You can select specific criteria within reports on the FortiAnalyser within the pre-built reports. But if you want to change things like, for example, you might want to change the header and footer to match that of your business, rather than having the standard FortiGate, the standard Fortinet headers and footers, then you can do that. You can drag and drop your own HTML or JPEG files into the headers and footers, so you can have a really nice report that will automatically, that you can send out to your customers. So, for example, if we look at a report here, just give you a quick view of what the report looks like if you've not seen FortiAnalyser before. So you can you can view the report in various formats. So these are reports that have been run, and then the settings field here, we can select specific time periods, we can select an hour, month, day, and so forth. We can specify our device. So if we've got, for example, an ADOM with a VDOM in, belongs to a specific customer, we can say, right, okay, we want to run this report. We want to schedule the report to run on a weekly basis. We want to enable the notification, and we want to say, right, okay, on our advanced settings here, sorry, where is it now? Output profile. So on the output profile here, we can select our specific report, and we can select our text and so on and so forth, and we can send that to a specific user. So we could say, right, okay, the email address is, Joe Blocks at Exclusive Networks to wherever. So we can create this. We create it once, and that's it. On a weekly basis, it will send this report out to that particular user or group of users if we wanted to send it to many. So if we have a look at the layout here, this is a very, very simple report. It's just a simple table, but as you can see here, we can select specific charts, and we can chop and choose what we put in, and we can just select OK, and we can drag that chart into the report layout. And if we review a report here, so we'll look at the HTML. So as you can see here, we've done traffic by user. So someone's logged in as administrator on this device. This is the source device name. We're looking at the host name of where they're going to, and then we can see the aggregate. We can see the aggregation of the category description, and so on and so forth. So it's really granular for the configuration. If you wanted to, you could just select a particular user. So it could be a user, it could be a source IP address. Really common in school sites. Someone comes on and say, oh yeah, such and such a student has been trying to access this. We want to know what time they were accessing it, and so on and so forth. Just a quick, if you want to make a copy of a report and change it, then it's really simple. All we need to do is clone the report, we give it a new name, we won't change that, and then it automatically opens the report, and then you can tune it to whatever settings that you want it to be for whatever particular user. And that's pretty much it for the sort of 10-minute overview of FortiAnalyser. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask? Okay, so if no one's got any questions, I'll close the call there. Thank you very much for joining us on Forti Friday, and we look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you.